Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
Hey, I'm Josh.
And we're back with some more pirate action. Big time 90s explosive entertainment. So much so that the movie was drastically huge, beyond belief. And sadly, it's like known as one of the biggest box office flops of all time. And we're talking about 1995's Cutthroat Island. And Josh, you told me you'd never seen this before, and I'm
Nope.
really excited to see what you thought about it because I love this movie. I think this movie's awesome.
Okay, so I didn't think it was a bad movie. And you know, when I looked at the billing, you know, I was like Gina Davis and Matthew Modine, and you already know I love Matthew Modine.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, I'm on board. That was the worst fucking role for him. Like, he was the most unconvincing. Like, his accent was in and out. Like, what type of fucking British person are you? Are you sophisticated? Because you act like a dandy at times. And then other times it's like, oh, wait, so you're a doctor? Like, you could perform surgery? Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what was his character? It made no sense to me.
Well, yeah, he's just literally he's just lying his way through life. You know what I mean? He's not any of those things. He just pretends to be. He happens to have some form of education because obviously he knows Latin.
He fucking operated on her.
Yeah, but he did tell her afterwards that he barely knew anything about doing that. He just he had an idea.
Which makes no fucking sense. Like, his character makes no sense through the whole film.
No, he is kind of a weird one because I remember that even like the first time I kind of came around, it's like they give kind of Matthew Modine kind of this strange mixed match choice, you know, and it really feels like the character role was written like it was kind of supposed to be kind of like a Carrie Elways style, like give or take like Princess Bride / Robin Hood Men in Tights, because he's got that Errol Flynn-ness, but with like the sort of the tongue-in-cheek kind of humor to it, and so on.
Yeah. Kind of like a little bit of a sarcastic deadpan type humor.
Yeah, because that's what I always felt like.
Which he failed at.
Yeah, because I felt like Matthew Modine comes in and it's just like, it almost feels like they're telling him like, hey, you're going to pretty much play Carrie Elways, but we got you for cheaper than Carrie Elways, so.
Right.
That's what's going on here, you know. And the weird thing is this movie, like, you know, like the reason why it kind of has a lot of the issues is like the build up to how it gets to where it's at and so on like that. And they initially wrote this script to be kind of like a Michael Douglas movie, and they're going for this romancing the stone kind of vibe. Was the whole idea is like
which makes sense.
Romancing the Stone, that kind of like maybe humor / romance / partial Indiana Jones vibe. They were going to make it just a little bit darker because I think the initial one was kind of a rated R script, and but at the same time, it still would have the swashbuckliness and so on. And because I got this super special edition version of Cutthroat Island that came out like only like a year ago or something like that. And I was like super excited when it did. It's even steelbook and everything, because the DVD copy of this movie was like crap for like a long time. It was one of those ones where it was a 1-layer disc. It wasn't formatted for widescreen TVs, you know, no special features, no bells and whistles, you know, one of those ones where they just slap it together and go, here you go, be grateful it's out there, you know. So there wasn't a good way to watch this movie for a long time. And when I saw that,
the studio had already spent enough money, is what you're saying. They're like, this movie did so bad. What's the cheapest way we could get this fucking piece of dog shit out?
yeah, we have to go about it this way, you know. It's the only way. This movie cost way too ridiculous amount because you know it falls under that same issue that there's other big movies, because like I feel like that mid 90s is like the biggest point of cinema of all time, where they spent copious amounts of money on movies that felt larger than they ever will be.
Well, you had the Waterworlds, the Postman.
Yep, Kevin Costner's the big kind of. He's the one who kind of like is like the poster boy child for making the larger than life, way big budget movies and so on. And it's not that any of those movies, they're all really good, but they cost so much money that no matter what, you're never going to be able to make it back because you're just in the hole too far.
Right. And this is like before. Like, I wonder. I would love to go back and to see like what was the China market, because it's like that's like a huge thing with movies now. That's why I feel like filmmaking, and I know this is a wild tangent randomly from two very underqualified people, but I feel like filmmakers have like no balls anymore.
No.
You know what I mean? Like they're looking at trying to make like the biggest return, and then they want it to be showcased in China.
Mm-hmm. No, well, because it's funny. I was literally just going through actually Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography again, and he was talking about like literally in like the late 70s and early 80s. He's like when he finally was getting into doing the acting and so on like that. He's like, people did not think about like Europe and China and all that stuff at all at that time period. That was like an afterthought. Like, hey, if we get a couple extra $1,000 from there, cool. But we're not going to put any advertising in there. But of course, Arnold being European, he's like, well, wait a second. He's like, you're just going to market it to like France and like England and call it a day. He's like, give it to me. I'm going to go run to every single one of these countries and go on to all their shows. And that was his big thing for like Conan and all that kind of stuff. Is that he did a really good job, and lo and behold, Arnold makes about literally half his money from like Europe and Asia and all that stuff for his movies. Sometimes I think some of his movies even make even more money in that district than they even do in the U.S.
Right. Yeah.
But I still think by the 90s, it still was not commonplace for that. I mean, it was there more than it was 70s and 80s, but still not as much. And even at this time period, it's, you do kind of wonder exactly. And the weird thing is sometimes when they take in the box office, because this movie here, if the box office it cost somewhere between $92 and $115 million to make. It says it only brought in $16 million at the box office. And this one only gives me, crazy. On Wikipedia, I'm assuming that's just the U.S. one. Sometimes they'll break it down to foreign and all that kind of stuff. But
that's fucking crazy.
And this is kind of the other downfall is the movie was supposed to come out in the summertime, but because of how much editing and stuff there was in there, because they just had so much film to go through, it didn't make it till Christmas, and it comes out in December 22nd. And I literally pulled up the box office mojo that tells you what else kind of came out that same time period. And it has a lot to compete with in Christmas time, because even though some of these movies don't seem as big, but like there's a few of them in here that are like, oh shit. And Christmas time is probably not when you want to release a pirate movie anyways. I feel like you want that to be your summer blockbuster, big old, ha-ha, let's come on out. So here's some of the movies that they had to go against at Christmas time. Some of them have been on here for a couple of weeks, and some of them are coming out at the same time. But poor old Cutthroat Island is only at number 14 out of all the movies. And number 1 is Toy Story. Number 2 is Waiting. Yeah, so huge one there. Number 2 is Waiting to Exile. I can't remember or Exhale. But 3 is Jumanji. You also have Grumpier Old Men, Father of the Bride Part 2. Still pretty big comedies at that time period.
Yeah.
Heat,
those were huge.
Heat has been on here for only 2 weeks, so that's still rolling strong.
Oh, no.
You have that Sabrina remake with Harrison Ford. You got Sudden Death with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Right.
Where he's in the hockey arena. And then even just like, it's kind of a bummer, but even there's other movies too that you wouldn't think would be outbeaten Cutthroat Island, but like Tom and Huck, which I think is that Jonathan Taylor Thomas one.
Yeah.
Dracula Dead and Loving It, the Mel Brooks movie. You have Nixon, even GoldenEye's still there at 6 weeks. And then finally you get to Cutthroat Island, and just right below that it's Balto that opened up the same week.
Yeah, so you're competing against, like, for your Christmas crowd, right? There's always a crowd at the movies, like, at least back in the day.
Yeah, especially back in the day.
Back in the day, you always had a Christmas crowd, and then, like, that Christmas break, like, flock of incoming people. The families are going to be going to Toy Story. Toy Story is going to be the one. Balto would be, like, a close second for the family stuff.
Yep. Jumanji as well.
Yeah, Jumanji, Father of the Bride. That is a huge one. I remember that because I'm pretty sure I went to go see that. Like my mom made us all go.
Yeah,
she fucking loves those movies.
Yeah,
there's no way we would ever go see Cutthroat Island.
No,
wouldn't happen.
And I'm gonna throw out. There's a couple movies that they've been out for a while, but like these are still contenders that would take your time. Is Casino. The
huge
Martin Scorsese one. It's only been out for 6 weeks, so that's still, especially back in the day, a month and a half. That means it's still probably hanging out.
That shows you that the 90s was just a different time. You just named movies in 1 month. Heat, Casino, Toy Story, Jumanji. Oh fuck, Father of the Bride 2. There's another one that you named that's a huge iconic movie.
Well, there's Sudden Death. I think it's a little bit more of like it's a little bit lower.
Yeah, that's iconic to me, son.
It's iconic if you really like those Jean-Claude Van Damme ones.
Oh, that's like my favorite. That's the hockey one.
GoldenEye. Yeah, the hockey one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. That one and Time Cop.
Yeah, oh, like Time Cop's great too. But yeah, but even GoldenEye, you have the Nixon movie that's got Anthony Hopkins in it. And there's even a couple more down here. So Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls, has it's been there for 7 weeks. Four Rooms, the Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez one, which didn't do that great anyways, but that opens up the same week. And then to even top it off, Braveheart's still there at 32 weeks, so it's still in some cinemas.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's just a ridiculous time frame for that movie Cutthroat Island to compete. And the bummer is that it's the last Carolco movie to ever be made, and Carlico's that one that did Terminator 2, and they did Total Recall, RoboCop, of course Rambo's, so many of those like action movies of like the 80s into like the early 90s. And the funny thing is you would think they were on like a roll. I mean, they only had Terminator 2 like a couple of years ago. They had Basic Instinct, the Paul Verhoeven one, of course Total Recall. They had all these big banger movies. But what I think happened is that they were just spending because they just thought they were on such a roll, they were blowing that money and spending more and more and more on the advertising and so on, that it came to the point where they're like, well, shit, the only money we have left is we already started this movie Cutthroat Island. We've already dumped some money into it. We just have to dump everything else we have into this film because it's all we have left, and we can't, spend on anything else. And it was literally competing against two movies. There's this other movie coming out, or that was going to come out, that actually sounds really awesome, and there's a script out there for it that'd be kind of fun to read. But I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden on it. It's a Paul Verhoeven and Arnold Schwarzenegger movie called The Crusader. So I think it would have been like a period piece Arnold movie, but him and Paul Verhoeven, the dude who did Total Recall, RoboCop, Starship Troopers and all that stuff. And Carlico decided that I think because they already had money involved in Cutthroat Island, that they had to give up on the Paul Verhoeven and Arnold Schwarzenegger one and go all in on Cutthroat Island because that was all they had.
I think Cutthroat Island too kind of derailed some careers besides destroying that company. But like I think that's what kind of put the fork in Matthew Modine. Because when did that come out? Well, it's late 90s, right?
It's literally 1995 Christmas is when Cutthroat Island comes out.
When did the Memphis Belle come out?
That is a good question. Well, because I was going to say, just even speaking while I looked that up, because the director you got going on here, I was wondering what kind of happened to him next, because you got Rennie Harlan, who's the dude who also did like Cliffhanger. He did Die Hard too. He actually does quite a bit of things that you don't even think about, but like he had what the heck was it? There was well, whatever. But the next movie, or the second to the next movie he does, is he has that Long Kiss Goodnight one, the Shane Black script one of Samuel L. Jackson. So I was like, and then he's got Deep Blue Sea. I'm like, well, he's still got some pretty good.
That's Long Kiss Goodnight's another Gina Davis movie, right?
Yeah, because apparently that's because that's his wife. So she's pretty much in all his movies, just like Paul Anderson always puts Mila Jovovich in all the movies.
I was going to say because that movie did well. The Long Kiss Goodnight. That was a good movie. That was after Cutthroat Island.
Yeah, so I felt like Rennie Harlan still was doing some stuff there. He wasn't.
And Gina Davis, she did all right for herself.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't feel like they were hurt too bad. There might have been that 1 year period where everybody's looking at them like, you guys kind of blew a bunch of money. Now, granted, what I kind of learned though is this is the other problem though is. Carlico had no money they had enough money to finish the movie. They didn't really have any money to put into advertising. So the movie just, at that time period when you needed to kind of advertise, they didn't put like anything out.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it would have helped.
Yeah. Well, it's the weird thing too. It's like, there's this long stretch where Pirates just doesn't work and people try it throughout the years. And
they needed to shelve it for another year because goddamn that month that it's just a killer month. Like the movies that they were competing against, it doesn't matter. The movie doesn't hold up to those other movies.
No, that's the toughest part. Well, and the thing too, it's like I thought about that. I was like, what if it just came out in summer '96? You would have some other movies you were competing against, of course, by that point. But I feel like that's what they should have done. But
yeah.
I felt like it was pretty much all or nothing. It was like that was just how this movie was going to go, and literally the ship's going to go down. I mean, so much so that, this movie ends in like ginormous explosions, just like the whole Carolco company goes up.
Right. The effects were awesome.
Well, that's the thing. The effects are amazing. The action's great. Like, it's just humongous and that kind of stuff.
I'm not the biggest fan of when they slow down the action, like the camera speed. They have to slow everything down so you can watch the action happen. I don't like that. Just let it go.
Yeah. Sometimes
that upsets me.
Yeah, you do like that half kind of speed thing, but
yeah.
But yeah. Beyond all that, though, it's like the fact that these pirate movies were still because they tried them a couple of times. There's one in the 70s called Swashbuckler that just didn't really make it. Then there's the Roman Polanski one. I've never seen it, but I've always wanted to. It's just literally called Roman Polanski's Pirates. And it's in 86 or something like that. And that one never seemed to do it. And this is it's every 10 years, it's almost like they try a pirate thing again and it doesn't work. And ironically, this movie was even at one point was pitched to be a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And literally at Disney, they're like, we are never going to make movies off of our rides.
That's so funny. Just give it a few years.
Yeah. Lo and behold, 10 years from now, pretty much, that's going to be one of your biggest franchises.
Right. Well, they did it off of everything. The Haunted Mansion.
Yep.
Fuck. Maybe that's the only ones. I don't know. I'm not a big Disney fan.
I thought they did. I thought they did about a third one too. But yeah,
wow,
even still, enough. I mean, all the other rides are all based off they're based off movies and so on like that. Even the Matterhorn is based off a movie that nobody remembers in a sense.
Right, and the old Splash Mountain was based off of a racist cartoon.
Song of the South
music video.
Where Walt Disney was like, no, we made it for them. We're making it for you guys.
He's just stroking his pencil mustache. He's stroking his pencil mustache. He's like, yes, bring me another Cuban boy. the people will love this.
Yeah, so there's that, but yeah, so Cutthroat Island, it does come out, and it's there, and I feel like action-wise, it fires on all cylinders. I will say...
There's some cool parts. Okay. The scene where they're in the carriage, they're being chased through the town, right? And they're making their grand escape. And Gina Davis is, basically the hero. He's like, there's parts where I'm like, they're trying really hard to make her be, what the fuck's his name? The hero in A Princess Bride.
Oh, Carrie Elwes.
Yeah, I feel like they're really like, okay, we're gonna have a Princess Bride type action scene where you hit them and they fall off, but we're gonna throw in some little bit of Indiana Jones action. Where she runs through the top level and then jumps back down into the carriage. That scene is awesome.
That scene's really badass.
And then Matthew Modine ruins it when he gets back and he's like, oh, you need a ride? Or something. He just... All his lines are fucking trash, dude. He is the worst character in that film. Well, every time he opens his mouth.
He's just and I'll say this, that is kind of the weakness of this movie, is the dialogue's kind of goofy with a lot of characters in a lot of places.
It's really bad. It's not charming like A Princess Bride, how their dialogue is. It's very well written. It has a flow. It's very it's got a poetic element to it. I don't know what the fuck they were doing Cutthroat Island though, but some of the lines were so goofy.
No, because that's the one thing I will say. That's its biggest weakness is it it has strange dialogue choices. And the weird thing is once again, you have a bunch of great actors in there. You got Gina Davis, you got Matthew Modine, you got Frank Langella. And even Frank Langella, who's super actor, he has some goofy lines himself in this movie too.
Which character is he?
The bad guy. He's dope.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, he has some fucking wacky things he says. Yeah, the commandant guy, the British officer with him, that dude. I don't know, man. I like the action. I like watching stuff blow up.
I mean, that's some of the best part. Really,
some of the sword fights
that blows
so
up
bad.
in this movie is almost one of the best explosions you'll see in almost any film.
Oh yeah, it's pretty dope. I like the Indiana Jones-esque adventure quality of it. Them finding the underwater cave with all the treasure, and the carriage chase and like all the different chase scenes that happen in this movie. But I don't know, man. Like I did not enjoy it like a ton. Like I was laughing for a while at the dialogue, and then I was just like, God, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, it does. I was saying, because even just watching it again, I'm like, it does do that. I can kind of bypass it because I like a lot of the other stuff that's going on in there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just it's goofy down. I don't know. Maybe it's because the dude directing it's from like Finland or whatever. I'm not too sure.
Maybe
they're giving him very like American oriented movies, and here he is. Granted he did Die Hard too, and Cliffhanger and so on, but. Yeah, it's like one of those ones, but
he's
yeah.
doing kind of like an adventure comedy film. Like he's doing a Romancing the Stone, and it doesn't really work. It's an adventure romance comedy, right? With that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, it definitely kind of has that vibe going for it, even though the romance, there's romance in it. It's not nearly, I would say, as much as maybe a Romancing the Stone. It's probably there as much as Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right.
Where you kind of have...
Yeah, Gina Davis is basically Indiana Jones. Everything she does is very Jones-esque.
Yeah, because she's the hero of it. I mean, and that's kind of the ballsy thing they got going on. It's not the first time that there's been like a female pirate captain in a movie, because there's that Errol Flynn movie, Against All Flags, that's got Maureen O'Hara in it, where she's the lady pirate in there, and Errol Flynn just happens to be the older dude in it.
Even just like a badass female lead, that's still not like super common.
No.
Also really fucking hard to do, unless you're going to do like, Sigourney Weaver and Alien style, where it's like believable. She's just badass because she's tenacious and she's smart. She's clever.
Yeah. And she
doesn't quit.
She took one alien out in the first one anyway, so she's got she could handle it.
She's got what it takes.
Or like Sarah Connor and like Terminator 2.
Or Sarah Connor.
So it's literally at about that time period. We're still even in like that literally proto era, like before like Tomb Raider and Resident Evil and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So in a sense, Gina Davis is actually charting some major paths here. And strangely enough, I kind of heard in the special features that she didn't initially want to be like this, like the leading role, because the original script was supposed to be Michael Douglas was the leading role, and then she, as time went on, became a pirate like throughout the movie. Like she wasn't initially a pirate, and then it turned out like by circumstances, by the time you got to the final action scene, she finally was picking up a sword and fighting along with him, but he was sort of the main character. And when they switched it around, it's like they made her pretty much Michael Douglas, and then they made Matthew Modine kind of like the sidekick like character.
Right. Yeah, that's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, well, he even said he's like, yeah, when I initially read it, it was kind of a different script, and then when I showed up, it was like, oh, my stuff's a little bit less, and I'm more of like the comic relief character. And so, well, whatever, I'm here already.
Right. Yeah, that would be a little upsetting.
Yeah, kind of that thing there. Well, it's that weird one too. It's like, I feel like, especially if you get a script like that time period, and you're like, hey, you want to be in a big budget pirate movie? Like, who says no to that, really?
Yeah. Well, and she made it fun. Like, she did a good job with it. The dialogue aside, like, I feel like that's not on the actors. Like,
no. Well, a lot of times
it's
I always
unfortunate.
feel when it comes to dialogue, it's like a triple threat thing. It's really like, it's a mixed match of there's writing, directing, and acting. It's like, and you can't really just blame one of them. It's like they kind of all come together. It's like, because you can sometimes have a bad line, but if you have a good actor and a good director, they can make it work, and vice versa. You can almost that. But this is one of those ones where I think, I do kind of think it is a mixed match of like the script's dialogue was kind of a little goofy. And then probably the director probably was one of those ones, like, I don't know. As I said, that guy does good movies, but I'm probably thinking that dialogue's not his main thing.
Right. Unless you have like a really iconic film, like I would say Star Wars movies, the George Lucas films, have absolute garbage dialogue. It is so fucking bad. But it works because it's like the magical world of Star Wars. Yeah. So it makes it okay.
You're not in the real world in a sense.
Yeah, and you got some badass, like, Hayden Christensen deserves more credit than what he is given. Like
I think so.
he took the dog shit of a script that George Lucas gave him. Like, do you think Hayden Christensen showed up on set when he was like, "I hate sand"? It gets into everything. Do you think he like showed up like, "Damn, this is a badass line"? Like, people are gonna be like, "Damn," while they're sitting in those theater seats. No, they probably all knew it was goofy, but George Lucas is like, "Trust me, it'll work." George Lucas.
I think it was Malcolm McDowell said this or whatever. He's like, I've had some kind of funky movies before in my time. He's like, and what I do is I never try to change the script. I just try to make bad dialogue. I just try to act it as best as I can.
Right.
And just try to turn that ship around a little bit.
Yeah, and that was a huge fault of that movie. Speaking of badass female leads, though, you know what my favorite one is? In my opinion, I think it's like one of the best. It doesn't get the credit I think it's due. Is Atomic Blonde. Charlize Theron in that film is fucking legit, dude.
Yeah, no, that was a great film.
It's a little unbelievable. Like, she does some things, like some of the overpowering of like dudes who should be like trained killers. You could be like,
Yeah,
but the thing that's consistent with that whole film, but the whole time during that film, she gets the fucking dog shit beat out of her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she gets fucking thrashed, thrown through like TVs and tables and off of things and into walls. Like, she gets battered, and she fights super dirty. Like, that movie is so good.
No, I like that a lot. I saw it in cinemas, and I've always been a big fan of that one. She kind of is one of the few like leading ladies of like the last like 15 years that actually can hold pretty well in action films.
Right.
There's some people that they'll throw in there, and it's like they want you to kind of believe in them, and it's like, there's a little too much suspension of disbelief here, But she's like the one where it's like, oh yeah, I get behind this. You know what I mean? Like, she's gonna have killer action movies if she's in them.
Yeah, she just made that role so raw.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember she's like bashing a dude's head in the car with her heel, just like hitting him in the eye with the heel over and over again.
And then I had a great soundtrack. Had a great soundtrack too, just to like really like captivate that like all those scenes, all that like 80s.
And the artistic approach too is like just top notch.
Yeah,
and it has James what the fuck's his name? Yeah, McAvoy. Yeah, you got him in there.
Yeah, I got Charles Xavier.
He's incredible.
Yeah, well, I'll even say this: going to Cutthroat Island, Gina Davis does take a lot of like hits as her character in this thing too. Like, she
gets the shit beat out of her too.
Yeah, she's always bleeding. She's shot. She's falling off stuff. You know what I mean? Just going through things. Especially even like that.
She did a good job.
Yeah, no, I think she kind of like definitely carries this movie pretty darn well. And
it's only up to her. There's no one else in this film.
No
one else helps her out.
No, you have all these side pirates. They're just there, but that's it. She's got to go find this treasure, and even story wise, it's got a simple enough plot that kind of gets it going, but it's still, I think, interesting where they're literally searching for these. There's 3 maps that lead to Cutthroat Island, and all these brothers for some reason kind of have them, and of course one brother decides to kill a couple of them and start collecting these maps himself, and that's Frank Langella as Dog the pirate. Yeah. And they have this kind of interesting scene somewhat at the beginning where literally Dog captures Morgan, Gina Davis's character, her father, and he's gonna literally like do whatever it takes to get that map from him, but he doesn't know exactly where it is. He just knows that he has it, and so on. And they go to throw him overboard with an anchor and everything like that, and Gina Davis goes down to save him and whatnot and pulls him up on shore, and he tells her like, well, I do have the map, but here's what you gotta do. I'm gonna die right here, so you're just gonna have to scalp me, and there's gonna be the map. It's I have it tattooed on my head.
Right. Which is a gangster way to keep a map hidden.
It really is. And then to have your daughter have to cut it off. While you may or may not be dead yet, I'm not too sure, because it kind of cuts away at that point.
As she drowns, or almost drowns.
Yeah. And you got all these other, pirates searching for you.
Yeah, I was distracted at first during that scene. like when he was telling her what to do. And like the next thing they're like under the water, right? And I was like, oh, she's gonna cut his bounds, and like they're gonna escape together. She starts to get the map, and I was like, wait, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, here we
Let's
go.
rewind this shit.
He's like, I'm not dead yet. Hold on.
Right.
I just want you to shave my head. Jesus. Yeah, he goes off that way and so on. And then they realize that, oh, well, you know what? This map's in Latin, and none of us pirates speak Latin, so we're going to need somebody to translate it. And
We
let's
need
go
a
to
fancy guy.
we need those fancy guys. So let's just go to like the slave auctions, in Trinidad or, wherever the heck, the Port Royal. And we'll find somebody who can do this for us. And lo and behold, that's, of course, where they find old Matthew Modine, whose character is William Shaw. And he's about ready to be. He pretty much just gets caught for robbing a bunch of like ugly rich chicks. Literally, I felt bad for that lady. They choose that lady, and like it's like not only is she kind of funny looking and everything like that, but then it's like the lines they have where like that, our poshy British dude's like. He's like, well, why don't you go dance with that one over there? She looks like she could have somebody. She's like, oh, I don't know, sir. She looks kind of homely.
Right.
All it feels like you get hired for this role. It's like, is that the one? Like, you probably don't even want to like let your parents know. Like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm in a movie. Like, what are you? Well, you're the ugly chick that is gonna get robbed and get light degrading comments.
Dude, I think about that all the time with the movie The Internship. You know the one I'm talking about?
I know of that one.
Oh, so it's like it's Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson trying to, get a job at Google. They're like arch nemesis. His team. One of the characters is a big fat guy, where he's just the butt of every joke. Like it's either like a joke about him being fat or just because it'll be like the main character says something to him like you're useless and so fat. And I'm like, I think about that guy and his mental health. I'd be like, I'm going to be a movie star, Dad. I'm going to do it. And it's just like you getting clowned on the entire time because you're like a giant fat person.
Yeah, but then they throw money at you, so does that make it okay?
Right. Or the worst version of it, the bitch that played Precious.
Oh,
she was in a movie that won all kinds of awards, and everybody was like, she's so brave, she's so awesome. Barely works. It's just you're known for playing a giant fat character. Yeah, like, that has to fuck you up.
Yeah, you got that one role that you can kind of get. It's not like when you're just a slightly husky guy and you're like, hey, there's always gonna be that fat friend guy that I can play.
Dude, or he's in a bunch of Kevin Smith films and the show My Name Is Earl. I can't remember his name.
I know you're talking about. He plays the brother in My Name Is Earl.
Yeah, got super jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have you ever heard him tell his story where he started losing all the weight and like hitting the gym, and his agent was like, "You're never going to work again. Like you just ruined your career."
Yeah, people want you as the goofy comedy guy, the fat goofy guy.
Right.
Yeah. It's like even Kevin James and everything like that, because like he really actually likes working out and so on like that, almost probably more than most people do, but he's kind of known as being the fat, goofy sitcom guy. Right,
yeah. No, Kevin James is fucking a weird one, dude. Now that you like bring it up, the movie Here Comes the Boom is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But he was on the same high school wrestling team as Mankind.
Really? I didn't know
that.
Yeah,
look that shit up, dude. You can see a picture of them, like high school wrestlers, like together. Like I think he was 1 year ahead of Mankind. So Mick Foley was his like high school wrestling teammate.
That's amazing.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah, that's so weird when that happens like that too.
Right. And then like another thing that's cool about Kevin James, you can listen to Boss Rutan, who was, the other lead in Here Comes the Boom.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say that, he'd be, this is a former UFC heavyweight or light heavyweight champion, pancrase champion, MMA pioneer, Boss Rutan, bad motherfucker. And he basically described Kevin James as having like massive power in his hands and be like, oh yeah, like he'd fuck some people up. Like he's actually really athletic.
Yeah.
but he's the funny fat guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard that before too. I've heard that he's really strong. He's really athletic. He's actually really good at martial arts. You know, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you get pigeonholed as that. You know. Or probably like Matthew Modine is like, you know, you have this movie here, and then that's kind of about where it goes.
Right, right. I know he was in other stuff, but I mean, it's like, ugh. You went from Full Metal Jacket, Vision Quest, fuck. There's something else that was big.
Well, he had a few of those ones. I mean, he even had like Married to the Mob. You know, he had. I mean, he's in a copious amount of stuff. Even post that, you know. But like, I'm kind of wondering if a lot of these movies like. Are they, because this is Sun's downfall. It's like you'll always have work, but do you go from being now you're the leading man to being now you're like that guy who appears like fourth or fifth in like the roster? Because I'll even say it's like Carrie, you know, poor Carrie Elways. He only has like a couple starring roles, and then for some reason he literally gets like regulated to like the bad guy position and like the fifth roster type characters on like the call sheet.
Right, right. I think also some of them probably didn't play the Hollywood game, where they weren't as like interested in like the other aspects of Hollywood. Like I always forget his name, the dude that plays Kyle Reese, Johnny Rico,
Michael Biehn.
Yeah. So you listen to him talk about it, and he was like, you know, he was on the up. Like his star was just rising and rising and rising. And he like made some comment to where he was like, you know, he wasn't into going to the Hollywood parties and all the mixing and meeting with producers and directors. He's like, I wasn't into it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like it. Didn't care about the whole fame aspect of it. And it's like that dude was fucking exploding. Like he was on the come up for sure. Yeah. And then, you know, you don't see him for a while, and he's in The Rock as the Navy SEAL captain who just gets gunned down.
Yeah, you know, that's what kind of happens. You're not like in Navy SEALs of Charlie Sheen anymore. Now you're like, yeah, you're like the Ann character at the very end.
Right.
You know, he literally was just in something just super recently that. Oh, he was in that new Predator movie, actually. A voiceover, of course. But that one that came out on Hulu, he's like the head captain in like the World War II section and whatnot.
Oh, is that the new where it's like CGI? Like,
yeah, it's like CG, and it goes through like three different like.
I started to watch it, and then I turned it off, so I was like, ugh. Yeah, I like CGI.
The graphics, you have to kind of get past that, I will say. But it actually was still pretty interesting once you got deep in there. And it sounds strange just when you got like the third one that had Michael Biehn in that story, where it was in World War II, and it was literally, you know, a bunch of pilots fighting predators and flying crafts. Was actually pretty badass. You know, I did like that part quite a bit, but
that was pretty cool.
You know, and it's still directed by the same dude that did Prey, so it's like, you know, at least, you know, it's in that kind of same vibe.
Dude, I'm a sucker for anything Predator.
Yeah, like, same here.
Sign me up. But unpopular opinion, but my favorite Predator movie, at least to watch over again, like multiple times, is Predators with fucking big nose guy who started The Pianist.
Yeah, that's
Adrian Brody.
Adrian Brody, the third Predator movie, like Predators, that one's fantastic. I love that one.
That's such a good fucking movie because it's like the best version of like, you know, the comics went and they did like the whole Dutch stuff, and they explored Dutch to like down the rabbit hole. And unfortunately, you know, we can't put Arnold in a time machine and be like, hey bitch, you got to be Dutch again. We gotta chase down these stories where Dutch is chasing down predators.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like that's a dope ass fucking movie. It like sticks with the comics like pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. It's a fun flick. I watched that one way more than I should. It's a problem.
Yeah, and it's got a good roster of characters throughout and so on like that. No, I like everything about that one.
It has great actors.
Yeah, no, just tons of great actors, just cool characters. You realize, why is Eric Foreman here? You know, and then it's like, oh, he's the serial killer. That's why he's here.
That makes sense. Got one of my favorite Russians on film.
Which yeah.
Eric Foreman's friend. He's just like the dumb, like barely speaking Russian.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, no, that is a good one. But I was gonna say, where the heck were we talking about on Cutthroat Island and all this like tangents to wrap around to it?
Right. My bad.
No worries there. No worries. This is how it leads into it. But I think we left off on like the maps and stuff where they're kind of collecting these like 3 maps and so on. They get it translated from Matthew Modine and so on like that. And I will say the maps are kind of interesting how there is, because there's 3 parts of them, and it's not like they're all the same. One's literally a dude's scalp, another one's on like a wood plank, and then the third one's just a regular map. But it's just the kind of the neat thing that's like, hey, here's this thing, and once you get them all together and you kind of find your longitude and latitudes and whatnot, you find out where the heck Cutthroat Island is, you know, and it's got the information of how to get there and how it's supposed to be really tough to figure out. You know, you got to take all these paces into the jungle and jump down a cliff.
Right.
You know, swing on inside this cave, and boom, there's all this cool treasure and so on.
Right.
And, you know, that Indiana Jones part, I think that stuff's kind of neat there, too, where they're just out exploring and they're just out in the cool islands and so on like that.
Yeah, it's fun. It makes for like a fun adventure flick with bad dialogue.
Yeah, with funny dialogue, you know, and so on.
That's the problem, too. Like, it wasn't bad enough to where it became hilarious. It was just bad enough to where you're just like, oh.
And then that's the weird thing is because sometimes there's like movies where I'll say like they almost become better because they're kind of like worse in a weird way, you know, where this one's kind of like that lukewarm middle where like the dialogue's just there. It's just enough to get you by, but you go, huh, that's a weird choice. I wonder if they had any other choices. You know, that's all I kind of think about. Just like whatever.
Did a native English speaker write that line?
yeah. Who wrote this? It's like it's that kind of thing that you can almost go like, you know, anybody can really get a job in Hollywood. It's not about like how well you can write. Let's be honest. It's never been about that.
Yeah, and to her credit, like Gina Davis, like when she delivers a line, it's like she's trying to deliver it. Like it's a dog shit line, but she's going for it. Matthew Modine, I feel like he's kind of like, you know, like he doesn't believe the words or the situation because it's like it never syncs up. Like it just seems like phoned in.
Yeah.
Or like he's saying it and he like, you know, in the back of his head, like you can almost tell he's like, this line fucking sucks.
Yeah, you know, whatever. We'll just figure this out, you know, later on. And so it's like, it's okay, because it's like, once it gets to the action is really where you want to be at. And once they lead up to, you know, you get past it, they find the treasure. Of course, Dog is tracking them down. And then they also got this kind of 3-way battle thing going because the British have a bounty on, you know, Morgan's head and whatnot. And there's another character we kind of forgot to mention, but there's this kind of, speaking of a fat guy, there's a fat guy in there who's writing books and so on like that, who's hanging out with Morgan and all the pirates and so on like that, you know, so he can pretty much, you know, write the tales of these pirates and so on. And of course, the British capture this dude and be like, hey, you know what you're going to do for us? You're going to let us know the location of all of them, and you release these pigeons. No one's going to question how you just came on board with all these pigeons all of a sudden, but here you go. Right. Just release one when the time is right, and then we'll sail on up and you know, have our way and capture these bandits.
Right. Yeah, and he's the one that basically like turns over Morgan and Matthew Modine's character, right? When she climbs up the cliff.
Yeah, exactly. And they end up capture Matthew Modine, and Morgan has to pretty much sneak aboard the ships and whatnot, and they've taken her ship, and then of course the British have their own too, and they're working with Dog and everything like that somehow, some way, you know, because Dog thinks he's gonna get this treasure, he's gonna work it out with the British, and somehow, some way, he's gonna become governor of Jamaica. Just, you know, what you do when you're a pirate, you want to retire. You get the politics next,
which is funny.
That's an honest living.
Which is funny because the last pirate movie we watched, that's literally what happened.
Yeah, Captain Morgan.
Yeah, Captain Morgan was now the governor of what fucking island?
Jamaica.
Jamaica. Oh yeah, that's right. It was Jamaica.
Because Jamaica's kind of like the main British hangout, you know, literally for 500 years, you know. So that's like in any pirate movie, that's where the British are always at. And
that's Great Britain's come and go. That's their refill. That's their buckies.
Yeah, exactly. You know, literally, in a sense, Jamaica's like, it's like Great Britain's Hawaii. Like if America has Hawaii, Great Britain had Jamaica.
Right.
You know, I mean, come on, that's where Ian Fleming lived. That's where Errol Flynn lived.
Right. I'm gonna go live on the beach in Jamaica.
I was like, it's like such an off story, but like apparently Errol Flynn and Ian Fleming, they lived kind of close to each other there in Jamaica. Both, they hated each other. Never got along.
That's so funny.
I know. Yeah, I feel like that's
I
a
wouldn't want to
sitcom
fuck
right
with
there.
Ian Fleming either.
No. Yeah.
That's like the last person I'd want to fuck with.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he was only in World War II, you know, as a naval officer and so on like that. And he writes these
Yeah,
007 movies about dudes killing each other.
Right. And it's like, I don't know if he did anything, but I mean, like, he, like, Bond was inspired by SAS, like, operatives, like, you know, fighting the war effort.
Well, that's, I mean, he knew a lot. I think that was the key thing, is he had a lot of intel that he could like pull from,
Right.
Characters and people he knew in real life. But
Who was the guy that played Solomon in Lord of the Rings? I always forget that
Christopher
fucker's
Lee?
name. Christopher Lee. That's the neighbor I would not want to fuck with,
No,
because he was actually SAS.
exactly.
And that dude has bodies that he put in the ground.
Literally, and then they make him the man with the golden gun. So now he's the guy who could kill anybody with one shot.
Right.
Who literally could kill anybody with one shot. That's the thing.
Yeah, don't fuck with him.
Yeah, no, he's crazy how much stuff he did.
I know I've said the story on here probably before because it's my favorite Lord of the Rings story that everybody likes to like grab onto. Like, did you know Vigo broke his foot when he kicked that helmet? Like, that's like a lot of people's go-to when they're watching Lord of the Rings with somebody else. But yeah, when he was supposed to get stabbed, Solomon gets stabbed by Wormtongue. And Peter Jackson's like, I want you to like belt out a loud scream, and you know that's when you die. And he was like, that's not what people do when you stab them right there in the torso, right on the lungs and the heart. That's not the reaction they have. And Peter Jackson's like, what do you mean? That's not the reaction people have in real life. And basically, I guess he just looked at Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson's like, oh, okay, yeah, I forgot. This dude was an SAS operative.
Yep.
Literally probably murdered somebody with a knife. And he was like, oh, that's what they do.
Yeah, he's got record evidence of how this goes down. But yeah. So where were we at on the Cutthroat Island? We're just
fucking no.
we're leading up to this big action.
The final fight scene.
The final fight, the last half an hour of this movie, you know, you literally have the British ship pretty much taken on, you know, they got Matthew Modine, they got the pirate crew and so on like that, and they're carrying as well Morgan's old ship and so on like that. And of course she swims aboard, jumps on, you know, frees her crew and so on like that, and then takes hold of it, and as they're following it, they're like, we're gonna sneak up alongside the British here and fucking dog, and we're gonna, you know, duke it out right here, classic pirate, you know, style. And they
classic oldest trick in the book. Disguise yourself.
Yeah. Disguise yourself as British. You just put the red jackets on. They can't tell the difference, you know.
Right.
And go on up there. But like that ending battle scene, though, if anything, like that is the biggest takeaway of this movie. Like just that alone, like that last half an hour where just shit's blowing up, people are fighting each other, there's explosions galore.
There's only one thing that drove me crazy during that fight scene, because all of it was fun. The cannon exchanging cannon fire through their gun holes was fucking dope, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to, you know, cross the T on the other one so they can keep firing and the other one can't, and disable their cells and doing all the fun naval battle stuff. I mean, they're not getting in depth with it. It's not Master and Commander.
No.
But it's fun. We're getting to watch, like, you know, explosions happen. The only thing that killed me during that was the just ridiculous amount of zip lines. They were just strung everywhere across each ship. Somehow each ship had ropes attached to each other, so you could just easily zip line back and forth and swing any direction like fucking a Spider-Man video game. Like, it was out of control. Like were they shooting that scene and they're like, we don't have enough rope swings and enough zip lines. We need at least 15 more shots.
Yeah, well, more zip lines. No, yeah, they're
out of
literally
control.
swinging back and forth. Well, it felt like Matthew Modine even said in the special features, he was all like, he's like, yeah, he's like, I was up there while like, you know, they weren't shooting, and I was just swinging back and forth because I wanted to get really good at this. You know, he's like, it's probably it's like illegal and not safe and all kinds of stuff. He's like, I didn't care. I just wanted to make sure that when the scene came, I got my swinging scenes in.
That's so fucking funny, dude. Because he had a lot.
Yeah, he has a ton of them. Same with Gina Davis. They're both just swinging back and forth and using those zip
Dude, she
lines.
swings everywhere. She finds ropes that, like, I was watching where the rope led, and it led to the enemy ship. And I'm like, how that rope get tied up on your fucking side?
Just
Is there someone running around who's like, oh, there's a stray rope. Let me tie this down to my ship.
Yeah, exactly. Just too much chaos going on, I guess, you know.
But it was funny. Like, it was probably the best scene in the whole movie. Like, you know, as far as action scenes go, it was pretty goddamn good.
Yeah. Well, there's like, I feel like there's a couple of just real standout action scenes. There's this one. Of course, there's that chariot scene at the very beginning or whatnot, where
That's my favorite of the whole movie.
Yeah, that one's pretty darn badass, and just all like the different actions, explosions, especially even that Gina Davis rolling through the window. And I saw how they did. They had like a special feature that they talked about, and what it was that there was a stunt double. They shot it 4 times in a row, and a stunt double went through, rolled, and did the land in there dressed as Gina Davis. And then there was another one where Gina Davis, she was riding down low and she popped up, and a couple other ones I think just for cover shots, and then they literally just fade those two together, and that's all it was. And it makes it work.
Really?
Yeah, he's like if you look hard enough, there's the most lightest dissolve for a split second when her head comes up just to, like, you know, match it with the stunt double, but they did it like that. It's like, that's pretty impressive still.
It looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, it was good enough to where, like, I watched it twice and I was like, that was pretty smooth.
Yeah.
I wonder how they did this.
Yeah, because, you know, it's proto, like, you couldn't really, like, well, you could change the face out. That's not out of the question. And the only reason I say that is because Jurassic Park uses one of those. When John, like on the little girl's name, spaced out.
Lena something.
Yeah,
No.
Timmy and why did I just draw a blank? Lex.
Oh, like
When
her
she
character name.
Yeah, when she's crawling through the air ducts and she falls down, she swings and the raptor jumps up at her, and she does that look up thing, because you can always kind of tell, because it's like you see the body and it's like that body almost looks like an adult body. It doesn't look like a 13-year-old girl's body or whatever, you know. And that, like, so what it is it's like a stunt double lady, and then they put her face onto that. It's like the first time they ever did that, or at least one of the first times.
Dude.
So it is possible
Yeah.
for Cutthroat Island, but, you know, at the same time, the fact that they just did it, like, literally by just taking 2 different shots and combining them together is pretty neat.
Dude, that scene fucked me up when I was a kid in Jurassic Park. That gave me so much anxiety with the raptors hunting them in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
Oh, fuck. Terrifying.
Like, yeah, you know, well, if I remember having that experience where I remember there was like these dogs pushing up against the gate once, and I shoved the gate closed to hold the dogs back, and it felt like that moment literally in Jurassic Park where they're like, the locks, get the locks. Because like, the gate was so hard it wasn't like an easy one to lock. It was one of those ones I had to like shove it up and push it down to like keep.
Oh, it was like a big draw pin thing.
Yeah, so like I literally felt like I'm like, oh, can I hold this by myself against these 3 big dogs?
The other piece is a little loose, so it's just like wiggling, and it's like you're just like butting around the hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
That's all I
God.
thought about Alan Grant holding that door against the Raptors, yeah, Cutthroat Island. When you get that last action scene and everybody's blowing things apart, they're fighting, they're doing the swashbuckling and everything like that, fighting on top of the mast and everything like that. Gina Davis.
That part was fucking stupid.
Yeah, well, it's like, why are they up there? Just because it's cool to be up here. Why not? You know, no logic.
I know. She climbs up there just to fall.
Yeah, just to fall.
But,
Yeah.
You know, put herself at, like, you know, within his reach, and just completely like give up almost. I mean, it was a cool scene.
Yeah, it's a cool
Once,
battle.
once they're finally up there.
Yeah, and they're fighting on top of the mast and everything like that. When she falls, it's kind of weird because it's like she falls and it's like it has like weird cutting when it goes through that. It's almost like they didn't have the right scene of her landing, so it's like it shows her falling and then it like cuts to like the inside scene of her rolling down. It's like
Right.
I guess she landed on something soft. I don't know.
Right. Right. I mean, the way she kills him though is badass. That was a cool death.
No, it is pretty sweet,
And the way she leaves Matthew Modine in there to like basically almost drown, that was funny too.
So much so he's got like a rat like on his forehead. That's like, all right, that's a good place to stand.
I'm safe. I'm safe here.
And they got the treasure down there, and they know the ship's gonna blow up and whatnot. And then she finally goes down there and gets him out of there. And they have one of those things like, do we get the treasure? Do not? No, we gotta escape and so on like that. But she's got a secret plan and whatnot. And they get out the top. Yeah, they get off the top, and then they have the scene where they literally jump off the ship, both of them, and the whole boat just full on explodes like like literally probably one of the biggest explosions in any movie known to mankind.
It was pretty awesome. It was a pretty cool explosion.
I mean, they blew up that whole boat.
Like literally, like there was so much packed in there that like it just disintegrated that boat.
Yeah,
like it was a million pieces.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous and so awesome, but it's like that.
Does Underworld have dope boat explosion scenes like that?
Did you say Underworld?
Or my bad, Waterworld.
Oh, Water. Because I'm like, is there a boat in Underworld? Like,
yes. So you must destroy the boat with all the lichens on it.
It just blows the whole thing up.
Speaking of Underworld. There needs to be a psychological study of men from our generations and their love for goth chicks associated with that movie. I'm just saying, bro.
It's that movie, but it really starts with The Matrix. The Matrix leads everything into that.
Right. Well, and then specifically for her, it's that film and then Van Helsing. It's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I like this gothic thing.
Yeah,
horses, let's go.
You got Trinity, then you got Kate Beckinsale in both those ones, and then in a weird alternative way, I guess it's sort of
Eon Flux.
Yeah, you got that one for Charlize Theron, and then you also got Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil because it's kind of got a similar vibe.
Yeah, and then even like an offshoot of weird, attraction shit, The Fifth Element.
Yeah, like an earlier kind of version of that and so on. It's weird because like when you think about that, I know we're so off topic there, but like that pocket 2000 or literally 99 to 2005, like that's such a almost like its own little like generation of films that like stuff doesn't look like that era looks so different than other things.
Right. We got a lot of fun sci-fi out of that era.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of cool stuff, and I call it the post-Matrix era. It's like that carries on, and it doesn't last for it probably doesn't even last for 10 years at them, but like there's just those movies that come in about that time that some really interesting things. There's that Christian Bale one, the Enders. No, what's the fuck's called? I'm not blank out, but it's like very Matrixy. It's like 2001 and whatnot, like where everything just kind of had that kind of all black leather, blue tones.
Equalizer? No.
That it is something. It's like
Equilibrium. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. That one. So.
Fuck, I knew what you were talking about. I was like, I like that movie. The movie's weird.
It's weird, but they're weird, cool movies. But like that kind of stuff there. And then, but not Cutthroat Island. Yeah, well, Cutthroat Island, it's special in its own way. Like as I said, like I still like it.
Fun.
A lot. It's fun. It's fun as fuck. The explosions are, they actually almost like the action in it as far as explosion wise. I will say, even put shame to like Pirates of the Caribbean's don't even get close to how big this feels when it comes to that stuff.
Right.
But that's kind of what it lives on there. Is that there was the total tail end of Carolco. There was the pirate. It's like the only pirate movie really in the '90s other than Muppet Treasure Island.
That's so crazy. Yeah, I at least like box office stuff because I think that's when the Hornblowers were made. Was in the '90s.
Oh yeah. And when that was
maybe
a British
those
TV
might
show,
even be like, yeah, dude. Yeah, you need to check out Hornblower.
Yeah, because you
Besides, I tell you, yo, dude, go on the internet and look up Hornblower, dude.
yeah, get old horn blower.
uh,
But yeah, Cutthroat Island. They get the treasure at the end. Gina Davis had a plan. She strapped a rope to it with like a barrel, and they decided that they're gonna, they could retire, but why retire when you could go to Madagascar and start raiding and pillaging that area?
right.
They don't know you there yet, so it's.
Let's just keep fucking killing people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this
Dude,
Jamaica's getting a little bit like too Englishy at this point. We gotta get out of here.
dude, that was the last pirate movie that is non-Disney?
Cutthroat Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is the weirdest thing is like, other than like literally,
There's been nothing else, right?
yeah, because the strangest thing is like I always thought this was weird when Pirates of the Caribbean comes out, those movies. Nobody else makes pirate movies. It's like, obviously pirates finally came back around after like 40 plus years. And for some reason, nobody took advantage of it. I always think that's the strangest thing. It's like, you think there would have been some other spin-off pirate movies, or even just things like, hey, let's do some remakes of pirate movies, as in like maybe a new Treasure Island, or maybe, any of these other and nobody does. The only thing that's close, but it's not a movie, it's a TV show, is Black Sails. But
Right.
it's a TV show, so I can't count that the same way.
That's almost like the same thing with, there's been other Western movies and stuff like that, but like a Hell on Wheels, where it's like, we're going to tell like a period piece, but we're going to like make it fun.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to get that type of movie in like, in the cinema, more or less.
No, and it's the same way that like I even felt about like speaking. We talked about this for a second, Jurassic Park, but nobody ever made dinosaur movies. Literally, it's like obviously Jurassic Park sells really well. Like you think like there's tons of other dinosaur stories you can tell. Other than like
everyone's making video game movies. Let's make a Dino Crisis movie. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and even dinosaurs. Weird. Like Dino Crisis is one of the only dinosaur video games too. There's not like a whole lot of dinosaur video games at the same time.
Yeah, that's not Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's not Jurassic Park. I'll say that because there's like 20 Jurassic Park games, but
right.
But yeah, it's weird.
Turok.
Turok. But dinosaurs are only really in like the first Turok and a couple of the ones later on. It's like
and then they start shooting guns and shit.
And they turn to mutants and all kinds of stuff, and the dinosaurs kind of go away. Like I think like Turok 3, like if it has a dinosaur in it, there's like one dinosaur. Like everything is mutants by that point,
Right. Yeah, no, that's exactly what Turok is.
But
No, that's funny. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it's weird that there's not. It's like nobody takes advantage of that. Like, hey, if this one thing's popular, it's weird because they'll do it for other genres where like, if something gets kind of a big deal, like it's almost like the one now for action movies is like, you would almost say is the John Wick kind of knockoff movies, and that's not saying anything against them. But it's kind of like at this same time period, you had the Die Hard knockoffs, and I love the Die Hard knockoffs. So like I don't care, like every single one.
Right.
It's like anything from Air Force One to Sudden Death to Cliffhanger, to Speed and all that kind of stuff. They're all fun.
Did you watch the Sudden Death Michael J. White film?
I haven't yet. I did find it though, I think, or at least I saved it. It might not have been playing for them. You probably had to rent it or something, but I did find that it exists. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, dude, anything he's in, I'm fucking watching it.
Yeah,
I love him.
Or it's like I just watched that Passenger 57, the Wesley Snipes like Die Hard movie.
Oh, really?
So
I haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to check it out.
It's actually pretty good. He's on a plane, plane gets hijacked and everything like that, and Wesley Snipes has to like save the day. It was pretty fun. And of course, the one
that sounds fun.
Like he's like a training instructor for like plane safety and whatnot, and he like really like reams on this one lady, and then of course she happens to be the flight attendant that he has to work with on this one. She's like, oh, that guy's here.
That's funny.
But I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. It was one of those ones I always wanted to see that one, and I felt like that was one of the few ones I didn't get a catch up on. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But
did you catch The Ballerina? Did you watch that?
I did watch that. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I'm a little. I did. I'm a little sad that it didn't, do as well as I was hoping it would. Because I want more just John Wick world movies. They're the funnest action films right now.
Yeah, because I feel like it's the new Die Hard is the John Wick style. You know what I mean? Like that's the one where you could keep making them and they totally work out. And in Ballerina, what my favorite part of that, I love the flamethrower duel. That part was so cool.
Oh, it was fun. Like it's just they're such fun movies.
Yeah, they're fun, great action. I mean, at least that genre's still kind of going strong because they even have a second Nobody movie coming out later.
I can't fucking wait for that movie, dude.
Because that first one was so good.
It's so fucking fun, dude. That is, I think, what year did that come out? Because that was my favorite movie for like, I don't even know, man. Like I saw it in theaters, it blew me away, and then like as soon as it came out on DVD, and like anytime I could watch it, it's like I've seen that movie so many times, it's out of control.
Yeah, that was literally my favorite movie of whatever year it came out. Like I liked it that much,
Right.
So as I said, like all those, it's been actually a good time period for just the classic kind of like just action type movies. Like literally, there's been like almost 10 action movies this year that were all pretty darn solid films. Whether it be Ballerina, The Accountant, Working Man, Mission Impossible, of course. Like there was quite a few. Trying to think. I know there's a few.
Working Man, I still have mixed feelings on.
Yeah, I'll say it's one of those movies that has a little bit of goofs in there too, like some weird kind of dialogue and so on. And that since it's Jason Statham seems to like steamroller through people, like it's never like he's never gonna have he's almost like the Chuck Norris nowadays. It's like he's just gonna go through. It's what I mean. The world's gonna bend over backwards for him. You know what I mean?
Right. I actually, that's probably like the best point I've ever heard on it. He's like the new Chuck Norris. Except I feel like Chuck Norris had to work for it a little bit.
Yeah, well, but sometimes there's some movies where just Chuck Norris is like literally just kicks down doors and like it's not going to be a problem.
Like Missing in Action 3 or whichever one it is, where he has the machine guns on his motorcycle.
Yeah, that's
he's just like killing fucking everybody in front of.
But
no, you're right, dude. He is the new Chuck Norris. Like it is. That's kind of fucking funny.
Because that's how, like, a Jason Statham, and don't get me wrong, I always love him. I'm always excited about for whatever Jason Statham movie comes out, but that's always how his movies are. There's always some situation going on. Somebody's being, needs help. Jason Statham shows up, kills everybody in the path, solves the problem. Right. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter what it is.
Oh, I gotta kill all these people now.
He can like live in his truck to save money, and he's still gonna kick ass.
Yeah, The Beekeeper was dope. That was a dope movie.
I like that a lot.
Working Man was a little like it was fun, but I was like,
I think the Working Man one. Weird. I think I got more excited just because I just knew it was a new Jason Statham movie, but I didn't know anything else about it. And when I was watching those intro credits and I kept seeing the people's names popping up, I was like, well, I knew Jason Statham, but it's like, oh, it's Stallone produced this movie? And then it's like, oh, Stallone wrote this movie? And then, what's his name directed it? From fucking Fury and, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Suicide Squad, that's not like his...
Zack Snyder?
Not Zack Snyder. The dude who did...
the dude... he did the first Fast and Furious?
Yeah,
David Ayer?
Yes, David Ayer. Yeah. So when I saw his name,
David Ayer's a motherfucker too.
So I kept getting more and more excited. Just like it was like those credits, because I didn't know that was what I was going into. I was going to have that many people in it. And I was like, oh. So I was like super pumped, and I think that just raised it up way higher than probably the movie actually is.
I think that's what made me watch it. Is you're like, it's a David Ayer film, and it's Jason Statham, and Stallone produced it and wrote it, and I was like, oh, okay.
That's I felt like I probably made myself more excited than probably as I said, the movie itself it's good, maybe not.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's not like a a classic or anything like that, but yeah, I just felt like I just didn't. I was so surprised, and I felt like there was somebody else in that movie too, like another actor that I didn't expect. I was like, oh,
David Harbour or whatever his name is.
I don't know. I can't remember, but
the dude that plays the Russian Captain America and Thunderbolts.
Oh, I do like that guy.
Yeah, I saw Thunderbolts as well.
Yeah, I thought that one was actually pretty good.
I did not think Taskmaster was just gonna fucking die in the beginning. I thought that bitch was in the whole movie.
I thought so too. And I was like, wow, that's the end of that.
All right, we have enough characters. Die.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, I overall like that one. And, you know, it still had a little bit probably more comedy. Like, you could have probably toned the comedy down just a fraction. But I liked it probably more than the majority of Marvel movies I've seen in the last couple of years. So,
yeah. I was excited at first because I was like, okay, so we got Sentry.
mm-hmm.
You know, we're getting Sentry and we're getting the Void. You know, and I was like, oh, is this setting up like a Void bad guy event? Like, is Marvel doing Marvel stuff? Are they going to actually pull something out? And then, you know, clearly they're not. They're just like, well, now you got Sentry. And maybe the Void will come out, but, you know, all baskets in Doctor Doom.
Yeah. Yeah, but
I think Marvel's fucked, bro. I think Marvel's fucked right now. I think they had, you know, they pulled a rabbit out of their hats that they did not see coming. So I don't believe that they planned all the phases out. I think the cards just kind of started to fall and they saw where it was going. They're like, oh shit, let's just keep tying things together. And then it culminated in just something, you know, that we'll never see again from them. And now we just get dog shit movies.
Yeah, I do think that this Fantastic Four movie may be the new turning point, though, if they do it right.
It may be fun.
Because the trailer looks good. I like the way that it looks. I like the 60s take on it. For the most part, I think the characters look really good. They look like Fantastic Four. It looks like they're doing it pretty darn, you know, straight. Hopefully it won't have a bunch of goofy comedy. That's always my fear, is that like the trailer plays out kind of
It's serious. A Marvel movie, so it will.
Yeah, you know, and then like then the movie comes and it gets kind of slapsticky at some point. You're like, okay, here we go. But you know, I don't know. They might be turning that ship around a little bit. You know,
I hope so. You know who I think is fucked?
Who?
I think James Gunn's fucked. Every trailer I see of Superman, I'm just like, what are we doing?
You don't like that Superman trailer?
No. I think it looks silly. I think his outfit looks silly. His costume. I think it looks fucking dumb. And I'm comparing everything to Henry Cavill when it comes to Superman, and I'm just
I do like Henry, you know, but
I like the Lex Luthor they chose more than, you know, Jesse Eisenberg, but I still don't like that we have a comic accurate Lex Luthor. I want a jacked, bald, super fucking billionaire.
Yeah,
he needs to be like. He needs to be like what? What is Lex Luthor? Probably like 6'2", 6'3". Like, he's a big fucking guy.
Well, this sounds weird. I always thought that, you know, it would have been a handful of years ago, but like you could have had The Rock play Lex Luthor, and I think I would have been like,
dude, that would have been perfect.
Yeah,
that would have been perfect.
I think that would have been a cool Lex Luthor to have,
because he's charismatic and he's like charming.
Yeah,
and he's what is he like? He's the peak of what a man could be. Is like what Lex Luthor is.
Well, because
that's why he hates Superman so much. Basically, it's an inferiority complex.
Really is. Well, I think it's like one of my favorite like representations of Lex Luthor. I think it's an all-star Superman. I could be mistaken, and it's like the whole point of like Lex Luthor and that is like everything that he does is like to be the best that he possibly can be as a human. You know, he's working out. Yeah. You know, he's training his mind. You know, he's practicing as many things as he possibly can. He's involved in so much stuff because he's supposed to be the superior human. That's who Lex Luthor is. You know.
Yes.
Where Superman, he looks at Superman like almost like in a sense like here's this guy who, you know, like, yeah, he has his morals, but like it's almost like he didn't have to earn stuff like how I did, you know, like he didn't have to go.
Well, he throws everything that Lex believes in, you know, mankind's like, you know, we're not, maybe he like never thought we were alone in the galaxy, but you know, like mankind is the peak. Like he wants to be the top alpha on top of the mountain. Then Superman just shows up and he's a fucking alien and he's Superman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
what are you gonna do? Yeah, what are you gonna do? You're gonna destroy him.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's the guy that they got. It's like, you know, he's still a little bit nerdy looking and whatnot, but he doesn't look too bad. I like just a lot of the other stuff they got in there. I like that they got Guy Gardner, who's my favorite Green Lantern. You know,
right?
And just there's just a bunch of kind of like extra, like, you know, almost like characters that you wouldn't expect. Like Mr. Terrific's in there. They got some Superman villains. It's like, oh, okay, so there's a lot going on in just one movie. Even Hawk Girl and all that stuff. So I'm pretty pumped for that. Like, as I said, I think this year is finally one of the first comeback years for cinema, because, you know, those last couple years, maybe almost even the last 5 years, it felt like each year was kind of one of those ones, especially when I went to go make like a top 10 list at the end of the year. A lot of times there'd be a lot of movies just like, well, that movie's on here because there's just this place, and here you go. But you know what I mean? It wasn't like one of those ones where it's like movies were kind of competing with each other, like how good they can be. Where I'm literally looking at my list that I have already in just the first half of the year, and I'm like, that literally could almost be a top 10 list right there. So we have another half a year that's filled with big movies that look like they should be legitimately pretty darn good. I feel like we're just going to have one of those years with be like, oh, you're going to go try to make a top 10, and at the very end of the year, and you'd be like, shit, it's going to be hard to make, because I think for once we finally have a good comeback. You know, I don't know if it's going to be enough to keep cinema alive continuously, but I think it might, you know, if it can do this a couple more years in a row, there might be a little bit better at least.
Right. I don't know, man. And I hope so. I hope there's something for DC, because, you know, I felt like they had some air balls, but they had so much. I felt like, you know, off of Zack Snyder's version of Justice League, you could have built something out of that, and it could have, you know, righted the ship, and you could have kept going with those same casting decisions and feel for the movies, like really grounded superhero films, for the most part, for some of them.
Yeah.
But, you know, it just died. And I love James Gunn. You know, I think he's fucking amazing, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a failure.
It'll be interesting. You know, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what kind of happens. You know,
how silly is it going to be? It's James Gunn. Like, he's a silly goose.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is I kind of hope it does, because the trailer plays seriously, but a lot of times trailers can be misleading.
But it's written and directed by James Gunn.
Well, that's the thing.
And it's like,
is he gonna? Because I hope he doesn't do the like. And don't get me wrong, I like Guardians of the Galaxy and even Suicide Squad, even though I had some real like reservations for the first half an hour in that movie because they killed Captain Boomerang off, and I didn't know what to think anymore for like, because that's my favorite character. And I sat there, I almost couldn't pay attention to the rest of the movie because I was like, dude, they just killed.
Well, he killed off Rick Flag too.
Yeah,
which is fucking crazy.
So it was like one of those ones, but yeah, as long as the Superman one's not goofy and comical, same with the Fantastic Four one. If they could figure out a way to pull that back, you can have a little bit of comedy, but it's like knowing that balance is such a proper thing. And if you don't have that balance in there, it can throw your movie off, you know?
I don't know. 'Cause the Suicide Squad one, it works. All the comedy in it. It's just, you know, so many quirky characters. It just makes it fun. That animated DC one that he did with Suicide Squad, or the Creature Commandos, that was fucking awesome.
Oh,
well done.
I forgot he did that one. Yeah.
Creature Commandos was fun. But and Guardians, I love all the Guardians films, but I'm like, okay, now you're running DC. Like, you're running the DC cinematic universe now. And I love James Gunn as a director and the movies that he made, but, you know, like stringing together an entire plethora, like DC has like the deepest, the directions you could go is fucking out of control. You know what I mean? With DC. And I'm just like, is he going to fuck it up? Is it going to be just like, you know, jokes that only land in 2025? And so, like, when you fire the movie up 10 years later, you're just like, okay, I don't understand that reference anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I hope it's not that. I do, at least trailer wise, it does look like it's going in a different direction that, like, looks like it's taking itself pretty serious at least, or at least serious enough. You know, but that's the same way I feel with the Fantastic Four movie. Like, strangely, both the Superman and the Fantastic Four movie almost kind of feel like they're in like a similar vibe, you know? As I said, I hope that they don't just end up being partial sitcoms like on those movies, but, you know, because that's always been kind of the problem that like a lot of the superhero movies have had, especially realistically since Guardians of the Galaxy is that and Iron Man were the ones that kind of pushed it in that
fucked
direction.
Everything up.
In a sense, where they took it from being like, okay, superhero movies are kind of serious to being like, oh, they can be halfway comedies, you know?
Well, yeah, you take the first two Thor movies, and then
Yeah,
you
they're
make
pretty
Thor
serious.
Ragnarok.
Yeah, and then Thor Ragnarok is like I still can't even. I've still not went back to ever watch that movie again because I just. And here's the weird thing is half that movie is actually extremely good. I'm not denying that,
Right.
but that comedy in there was just so out of place that I just feel like I don't.
Well, turning Thor into like the biggest retard out of
Yeah,
like all the heroes.
Yeah, I just don't know what to think about that. It's like one of those ones I just have a hard time. Like, there's even like I think it's like the Avengers, part 1, whatever, of Infinity War, like the one where they have Fat Thor in there and so on. Like, I almost have a hard time going back just to watch that just because of it. Like, it's so weird and so almost in a sense, very uncomic booky that, like. If that was Mel Brooks's Avengers movie, I'd be like, okay, I'm in. If that's what we're doing is a goofy spoof, sure. But like the fact that that's supposed to be like the serious movie or like the the regular one, you're like, what?
That's Thor Odin's son.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, what the heck?
That's what he's reduced to. But it was solely done just for like the comedic elements of it. Same thing with Ant-Man. Like Ant-Man, unless he's in his own movie, he's basically just a comedic element. That's it.
Yeah, he's just there to be the goofy one. And I'll say is like you can always have the one comic relief character that's kind of okay, as long as you don't start getting to the point where you have multiple comic relief characters. That throws it off when there's like people are like jarring for that position. Because
that being said, Marvel all the way up to Endgame is fucking phenomenal, though.
Oh yeah, for the most part.
With all that being said.
Yeah, for the most part, like the majority of it, actually, I do like quite a bit. And it's like, as I said, like some of those movies like Thor Ragnarok, like there's a lot of great action in it, and there's good scenes and so on, but it's just like some of that comedy is just like...
You got Jeff Goldblum, which is just like, hey, hell yeah, Jeff Goldblum's in this.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah. Of course, you got Hulk in there, or, Planet Hulk type stuff, so it's like there is a lot of cool stuff, but... Yeah, I don't know. I hope the turning point comes for both of them, and we'll just see where it kind of goes. And I guess that's the only thing.
I do because they basically resurrected, Punisher and Daredevil, and the next Daredevil is going to have all the Defenders characters most likely in it. Is everything that's leaning towards, which is fucking makes me happy.
Yeah.
Now you don't have an excuse to not watch them now because you're like, well, they're just dead stories now. And I'm like, well, apparently not anymore.
Well, it doesn't bother me if there's like, because I always go like, I like to say everything's canon in some weird way. Even if it's alternative universes.
Right.
It's
Earth 618.
Yeah, one of those things, but got that. Got a new Jurassic Park even that actually looks pretty decent, so.
Right, with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I mean,
dude. Speaking, what movie I've been wanting to watch?
I'll say.
Well, speaking of her, a movie I want to watch again because it's been a few years, and I actually enjoyed the fuck out of it. Is her Ghost in the Shell movie?
That actually is a pretty good one. That's one of the few. That's actually one of the first movies that I watched of hers where I actually was like, you know what, she did a pretty good job. Because most of the time, like,
it's also one of the best live action anime films ever.
And I
they did a good job.
Yeah, and then realistically, as an adaptation, it's pretty darn accurate. And they even sort of do the thing like,
good.
So if you question like, well, wait a second, why is Scarlett Johansson like Japanese? Like they even have a scene that they work in there. At least it kind of explains it, where like the mom comes out and she's like, oh yeah, that's my daughter and whatnot. She just wanted to look like Scarlett Johansson or whatever. It just at least explains it, so you go, oh, okay, so she is Japanese. It's just because she's got her cyborg enhancements.
Also, everybody who complains about that's either a woman or is gay or an incel.
Probably.
Because, I mean, you don't want to see Scarlett Johansson in a skin-tight bodysuit running around? Get the fuck out of here.
That's probably, yeah. I mean, as I said, it's one thing. It's like, yeah, probably if it was just a Japanese girl, it would be, you would have actually like 100% perfect movie because it would just make sense for the manga and everything and the comic or the anime. But realistically, that movie's spot on, pretty much. Like
they only made one bad casting decision. I can't remember who plays Balto. I thought it was like it's somebody random. It needed to be Mickey Rourke or fucking Ron Perlman.
So that would be both. Those would be really good choices. I want to say the guy that plays him though, even though I can't remember who the hell it is.
He does a good job.
Yeah, he does a pretty decent job.
I can't remember who it is either. So That upsets me.
But yeah, no, that one's a good. I have that on Blu-ray. Like I was actually a pretty big fan of that. You know, I felt
No,
that one.
that's a great movie.
That one and the Alita. There was that mini period where they had some kind of anime manga like American adaptations, and that didn't last very long. But like the couple ones that came out, I actually thought were pretty solid.
Yeah, Alita was fucking fantastic, and I'm upset that I didn't get continuation to that story.
I know. I hope it's one of the ones I do. It's Robert Rodriguez and like James Cameron. I don't know how they can't get that going. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that thing. Just like
get your little index cards out, Robert Rodriguez. Let's go.
Yeah,
start writing that bitch.
Just don't do the Sin City 2 thing, because that was the only downfall that he did. The Sin City 2, he waited way too long to get that second part out, and it's not that there's anything wrong.
He covered the best stories too.
Well, there's that, but like, I feel like if that Sin City 2 would have came out, say, in like 2008 or 9, it probably would have done extremely well still, because that was still popular. But like, it didn't come out until what, like 2017 or something like that, 18? And by that point, it was almost like nobody cared. So it just kind of came and went.
And it was so good. Like, I just watched that recently, not that long ago. And what's her name? Ava Green, I think's her name.
Yeah.
She plays a villain so good. Like, she's fucking amazing. You have Josh Brolin. Mm-hmm. You got Mickey Rourke coming back. And that's one of those things where you waited so long. Mickey Rourke just doesn't... He's just not the same. He's not the same Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Jessica Alba's still in it. Who is it? Plays Robin in the Christopher Nolan Batmans?
Oh geez, what the heck's that dude's name?
Jason Gordon-Levitt or something like that. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
His storyline's my favorite one out of the whole one, where it's just like it's the quintessential Sin City story. You know, you come there looking for revenge, looking to make your mark, make some money, he just ends up fucking dead.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is the movie itself is actually pretty darn good, but it just, wrong timing for it, because they just waited too long. I even felt like it's the same thing of even like James Cameron's Avatar 2. It's like, I felt like he waited too long on that one too. It's like, dude, the money was there, 10 years ago, and that felt like that second one came and went and nobody cared.
Yeah, I still haven't watched Avatar 2 because I didn't want a second one.
No,
the first one's good enough.
Yeah, and I'm not even really the biggest... Really, the only character I like in the first one is just the military dude. I could kind of care less about the blue people,
Yeah.
It's like one of those ones, I felt like I had no connection to them. I was just like,
Whoever that actor is, like, that dude's dope.
Which
I don't know his name. The general military mercenary guy.
Yeah, I like that guy a lot.
Right. Yeah, he's fucking awesome.
But it's like, it's one of those ones. As much as I like James Cameron, it's like, if you release maybe another movie, I'm willing to come check it out. The Avatar was kind of a weird one.
You know what I fucked up and went back to, and it was a mistake? I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch M. Night Shyamalan, like his only good movies, in my opinion, which is Unbreakable, Split, and then whatever, Glass or whatever. I was like, I'm going to watch those 3 movies. I watched Unbreakable. It was okay. It was very slow, mainly because I knew everything that was going to happen. But, I was like, Bruce Willis is in it. Let's enjoy this while we can. And then I watched Split, and then I completely lost interest for the rest of it because I was like, Split was the only good one. Like, when you really think about it.
I think it's the only one I saw. I don't think I saw the other ones, to tell you the truth.
Really? Yeah. It fucked me up, dude, because I thought those were so good, and I've told so many people to watch it. Like, yeah, you gotta watch all 3, dude. They're fucking great.
Some of those movies, it's like they're good like on their first watch, and then it's like they kind of lose their like mystique after that.
Right.
It's like mostly like the M. Night Shyamalan movie that I think that I always liked the most was Signs. Maybe because it has Mel Gibson in it.
That was good. Dude, speaking of movies, though, that is the opposite of that, are always good. And if you want a nautical swashbuckling swords and cannon fire action, Master and fucking Commander.
Yes, always a good one.
It is upsetting that that movie doesn't get the love that it deserves.
Or the sequels that it needs.
What? I mean, could you do a sequel
Well,
to that? Because it just
doesn't have a bunch of books though.
does it really?
I thought it did. I thought it was like a book series.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I always thought. So I always assumed that there was multiple books and so on like that out there. So there was all kinds of tales that came from that. I could be wrong, but
I mean, maybe. I mean, it very well could be. But I mean, that was just a perfect movie. That is probably like the as clean of a period piece that you could get.
yeah, no, definitely. No, it's one of those ones I really would like to sit down and watch that one again because it's been a long time since I've seen it last. But yeah, super good. I haven't got to see that one in the cinema, so I remember I was excited about that. Nobody
Yeah, I
else
missed
was.
it. I missed it. I'm so upset about that. I didn't even know it came out.
And the worst part too is you were there when I went to go see it at the cinemas because it was RJ's birthday party and everybody else wanted to go see Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm like, well, I saw this already. I want to go see Master Commander, and the only person who went to go see it with me was Cody, his RJ's brother.
Really? Oh shit.
Yeah, so me and Cody watched Master Commander, and everybody else wanted to go watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre again.
I would have got more enjoyment going with you.
Yeah, because one of those ones. It's like, yeah, I was like, yep, I want to go see that.
That's so funny.
But yeah, old swashbuckling and all that good stuff. Just like old poor Cutthroat Island that sits in the legacy box of ye old times of what the '90s was all about: big explosions, gigantic budgets, real like cinema type bills and so on like that. Things that you actually sadly don't get anymore. It kind of is like totally like the explosion of the end of an era almost.
What's your favorite '90s movie to point somebody to go watch? Like if a youngin was going to come up to you and be like, "Mr. Holmes,
now
I need a movie from the 1990s to watch. Please give me one."
Now, are we going with the movie that would be like one of the best movies of the '90s, or are we going with the movie that defines the '90s the most?
No, you just pick whatever you want. You just any movie you want to tell this young person.
I have two movies that bookend the '90s in a sense, if this makes sense. Because one movie I feel introduces '90s cinema, while the second movie is like the tail end of '90s cinema and turns into the 2000s. And my first one is Terminator 2, because I feel when you see Terminator 2, that's like, movies have literally shifted from like what an 80s movie looks like to like the 90s. And perfect example is like, just watch Total Recall that's only 1 year beforehand and Terminator 2. And don't get me wrong, Total Recall I actually like more than Terminator 2. But you look at like how Terminator 2 looks is like that looks like it's the leap in cinema is ridiculous. Like just in that whole change.
It was so good.
And that's 1991. Boom, here you go. And then my second one, the book end it with, is The Matrix, because The Matrix is like your tail end 1999 '90s movie, but it really is what the start of the 2000s is. And those two movies,
also, it defined like 10 years of cinema.
Yeah, and I think both those movies do. Both Terminator 2 defines 10 years of cinema, and so does The Matrix. And those are my kind of like the two movies that if I look at that kind of like captivate like really like the 90s a lot is those two. They're both sci-fi movies, but
Dude, I'm glad you gave a serious answer because mine's not serious. Mine is Chasing Amy, because back in the 90s, we believed if somebody was gay, they weren't really a lesbian. They just hadn't had the right dick yet. They haven't met Ben Affleck yet.
Yeah, that's what Ben Affleck taught us. Well, I was gonna say, because when I asked you at first, like, would you want like the one that's like the 90s as in like really pinnacle movies, or the ones that like make you feel like, oh shit, we are in the 90s? That's almost like if you show someone like Mallrats, that's like here is the example of like what it would be like to be if you want the experience of the 90s. Here's that. I would say Clueless, but Clueless is very unrealistic for the fact that lady's like a millionaire.
Right.
And I don't know how she relates to anybody when I really think about it.
Dude, Mallrats is a perfect one because that's a movie, and I know we've talked about this before. just like shooting the shit. That movie is almost like we watch it because we never got to experience the mall culture. Our mall was an hour away, so we never got to experience any of that stuff. Going to the mall was like, you're going on a pilgrimage. You're really going to go hit up all those stores. We didn't just have a mall we could just go to and you just hung out there and you ran into all your buddies, but we would see people in the mall that were doing just that.
Because there was a lot of people on a pilgrimage, to come seek out like on a weekend, and go find things and go to like FYE and search for random VHSs and so on like that. But no, it is kind of true because the true mall life by about like the late 90s 2000s was pretty much on like the outs. They was there a bit, but it wasn't the same thing. The other movie that kind of defines that actually pretty well too, even though it's not the movie's not centered around it as much, but it's still there. But is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I feel that one captures what mall life would have been like in like 1982, like and everything like that, where you're like, where the mall is realistically once again a very big deal. And it's weird that like malls are like, it's like a 30-year period that like malls kind of like really own this like zone, and that time is kind of gone and it's not there anymore. But Mallrats is actually, I think that's what will make that movie such like a good like historical bottle film, is the fact that like it shows that mall life like at its best.
Right. Well, it was always something that like I would watch too, just like that observer, just being like, man, I wonder what it was like. I wonder what it was like just going and meeting your friends at the mall and you just walk around.
You just hang out, you know what I mean? You just chill. There's all kinds of eateries. And yeah, because you don't get that when you travel to it. When you travel to it, you're there for like 2 hours and then you got to go back,
Right.
Yeah, that's how a lot of those movies are, where like I see stuff and then it just makes me kind of go, I wonder what that's like. Or when we were kids, especially when you watch movies and you assume this is what life's going to be like when you grow up. I remember the one I always think about is I'd watch Son-in-Law in like 1993 and it'd be like, okay, so when you get to college, it's going to be just like this. Nope, not one bit. not by the time it's the 2000s. It is not anything like that anymore.
Yeah, I got fucked up from 90s films with like 90s martial arts films and then like action and cop films like, Lethal Weapon, all the Van Damme flicks, the Seagal movies like Hard to Kill. I remember I had Hard to Kill on VHS. I'd watch that bitch like once a week and be like, I gotta learn fucking Aikido. Thank God I didn't and get, sucked into that bullshit.
Yeah, get one of those things like that. But that was also the fun part about like having movies back in the days, because in a sense, because you didn't have as many of them, you watched the living daylights out of the ones you did have.
Right. Yeah, you really did.
Where it's like nowadays, like there'll be movies that I really like, and like it'll be all of a sudden be like, dude, I don't think I've seen this movie in 15 years, because there's so many movies that you're just charting this course of whether you're watching new movies / you're trying to rewatch old movies and so on like that, that they just go by the wayside, and it's like, and then then you pull them out and you're like. Like I pulled out like Desperado, like I used to watch the Living Daylights of that movie all the time. I'm like, I probably hadn't seen it in 15 years, and I threw it back on again. It's just as good as ever, but like it's amazing how like that time can pass.
Right. Yeah. I just had that not that long ago with From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
It like popped up, like on like recommended for you, and I was like, dude, when's the last time I've seen this fucking movie? Like I can't even really remember everything that happens. So that was fun. Getting to go back to that.
That one's a great one. Yeah, totally good, So, no, there's all that kind of fun stuff there. But yeah, all kinds of good movie moments and so on like that. But if you've never seen Cutthroat Island and you're really kind of wondering, yes, you are missing out. I think you should go see it. I'm not going to say it's the greatest movie, but there is stuff in here that you won't see in other movies for sure. You won't see action this explosive, You're not going to maybe have as much fun, And this is literally, if you disinclude Pirates of the Caribbean, this is like the last major pirate movie to be out there, So it still is kind of historical. It even has a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo game if you so desire to try that out.
Which that part's funny. That part I'm like very confused. How the fuck did that happen?
Well, that's the weirdest thing too, because it's like one of those ones like if they didn't have any money for advertising for the most part, even though
how did games get made?
I guess I think the games kind of get made by, it's not necessarily they license it out, so somebody pays to get the license to make a Cutthroat Island game. So they probably use that to make some money, and then they just said, "Here you go, make it out, and then you can make your money off of it." So who knows how much anybody?
They probably got it. It was probably so cheap.
Yeah,
so fucking cheap.
Because. Yeah, well, once again, Carolco, they were literally selling off a lot of their properties that they had and so on like that to pay for Cutthroat Island. So, like, Showgirls, the Paul Verhoeven movie, got sold off, and a few other ones. And, just because the movie was costing so much. But yeah, there is a Sega Genesis and a Super Nintendo game, and they're kind of fun. They're super fucking hard, but...
Like mini adventure games from that period.
Yeah, I was playing it today because I was like, oh, I'm going to play a little bit of the Sega Genesis one. I get past the first level. It's kind of like a beat-em-up hack and slash game, maybe all kind of Golden Axe-y and so on like that. I'm like, oh, this is cool and so on like that. You get to the second level and you're doing like this like kart race thing, even though I think it's supposed to be like the stagecoach thing, but like you're on like a cart and you got to dodge all these obstacles and so on like that. And I got so far into it, so far, and then I finally crashed to a fat guy, and I was like, so you can run British people over, but you can't run the fat guy over? Like, and it sent my characters flying, and I was like, and then it restarted me at the very beginning of that level. I'm like, yep, one of these type of games.
Yeah.
Second level, pain, it's like that. That's how a lot of those game signs were. It's like the Lion King, where you play the very first level, you're like,
I was going to say that.
This is fun. You get to that second level, and the game's just like, I'm just going to kick you in the nuts down the fucking stairs. Like
Dude,
that
Lion King, the Aladdin game, so many games that were that style. Just fucking brutal.
Yeah, and that's how it is. Just so... But it is kind of cool. I like the animation in the game and so on like that. They're kind of neat. I can't remember how much different the Super Nintendo one was. I know I've played it before, but like a long time ago. Because I want to say they're both that one that a different company made one for each system. So you almost have two Cutthroat Island games. I think there's even a Game Boy and a Game Gear game if you want even more variation.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't think probably a whole lot of people were buying those. I bet you they're probably even still cheap to pick up to this day and age. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I'll say Cutthroat Island has an amazing movie poster / game cover.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a poster that you could throw on your wall and you're like, that's pretty badass looking.
They got something out of it.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
It's a fun movie. Just being able to see young Gina Davis.
Yeah.
Do her thing. I fucking love Gina Davis. I'll watch anything she's in.
Yeah, no.
And I used to say that about Matthew Modine, but this movie changed that for me.
It's okay. Frank Langella's still pretty good in it. Even if he's got some goofy lines here and there, he's still pretty good. And it's still fun.
If you want to see a good Matthew Modine movie, go watch Full Metal Jacket, Vision Quest.
Mm-hmm.
Stop there. Those are both good.
You're good enough there, but yeah, check that out. And then if you want to hear more Old Man Orange podcasts, we can go to YouTube or Spotify, find all that fun stuff there, more movie reviews, game stuff, and all sorts of things. But till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And Josh.
And we'll see you some other time.